Warning, if you have family seeking asylum on the southern border, their lives just got infinitely harder and more dangerous. Assalamu alaikum, welcome to Voices with Anisa Qalbi, immigration and business side of the channel. Today we're going to be covering a massive and frankly terrifying shift in border policy by DHS and CBP. So they have implemented a new rule aimed at holding migrant families and children for indefinite periods while they undergo intense vetting. This policy directly challenges the legal protection that have been in place for decades under the Flores Settlement Agreement. This isn't just a bureaucracy. This is the end of a traditional catch and release policy for families, replacing it with catch and detain. And the stakes for the vulnerable people have never been higher. To understand the crisis, you must know the Flores Settlement Agreement back in 1997. This court agreement it set national standards for detention, treatment, and release of all migrants and their children. Crucially, it mandates that the government must release children and by extension their families after a maximum of 20 days. It prevents the indefinite mass detention of minors. Now, DHS and CBP are attempting to circumvent this. This new rule states that due to the urgent national security mandate, families and children must undergo extensive in-depth vetting that includes enhanced biometric scanning, cross-referencing with more national and international databases, and a comprehensive background checks. The key is that this vetting is being conducted inside detention facilities, not after they're being released. This process, CBP admits, often longer than 20-day limit, effectively turning temporary holding facilities into long-term detention centers, directly violating the spirit and the letter of Flores Agreement. So immigration advocates are, already filing lawsuits calling it illegal and run around the legal precedents, which I agree. And now the human cost of this new rule is devastating. Imagine families after a grueling journey being held, which would be indefinitely in a crowded, often inadequate facilities, right? While the government runs checks on that could take months. Then you have the psychological trauma. Prolonged detention is known to cause severe psychological trauma, especially in children, right? Hindering their ability to effectively present their asylum claim. So this failure to vet equals immediate removal. The most sinister aspect is the increased risk of immediate removal. If the enhanced vetting process flags anything, even a minor, inaccurate, or a common name match in an international database, the family's application could be deemed ineligible for asylum and they could be subject to expedited removal without getting a chance to make their case before an immigration judge. How cruel is that? I feel like the goal is very much clear. From is the deterrent strategy is very clear to make the process so miserable, long, and high risk that if that is going to deter others from attempting to cross the border to seek asylum. This transforms asylum, a right protected under US and international laws, into a nearly impossible gauntlet. Okay, for those approaching the border, or or for those sponsoring waiting for family members, the rules have changed completely. I feel like you don't want to risk it without counsel. You need to have some sort of a legal representation before approaching the border. Is more critical now than ever. Attempting to navigate this new intense vetting process without an attorney could be extremely dangerous. Families must be prepared to provide every single document, every name, every address up front to try and speed up the vetting process through this difficult in the detention center. So if you are a U.S. sponsor, be ready for a prolonged communication silence and be prepared to engage with legal aid groups immediately upon learning a family member has been apprehended. Do not wait. So this new CBP's new policy is a humanitarian crisis that is wrapped in a national security blanket. We must monitor. I'm gonna try my very best to monitor this situation closely. And ensure every family knows that there's extreme risk. So seek immediate counsel if you or your loved one are planning to seek asylum. join support groups challenging this new detention rule, and all of that stuff. So if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please be sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Do you believe holding families indefinitely is justified by this national security concerns? Let me know what you think about this episode or what you think about this concern in the comment section. Until next time, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.